The Tim Heale Podcast's Ordinary People's Extraordinary Stories.
Welcome to the Tim Heale Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to have a chat with Kathleen. Kathleen, if you can tell me where you were born, because you're a lady, we won't ask you when you were born. If you can describe what it was like where you grew up, the schools you went to, and the education that you received.
Hi, I was born in San Diego, California, USA, and both my parents were born here. We're just a San Diego family, and I was born in. My parents lived in a little house next door to my aunt's house, and they were going to put the freeway through, so everybody had to get out. And so my parents bought their first house over in San Diego, and it was a really great neighborhood. And I remember when I was 3 years old, I used to take a walk around the neighborhood and talk to all the neighbors, and I enjoyed them thinking I was so cute. And then when I went to kindergarten, I went to Andrew Jackson Kindergarten, and it was, I don't know how far, it was 3 blocks or something. And I used to walk to school in the morning. And it was, there were 2 kindergartens, and we were in the first kindergarten, and we used to go in and they would teach us stuff and we would learn, stuff. And I remember drinking orange juice or milk, whichever you liked. And then we would go out and play in the play yard, and the first kindergarten and the second kindergarten would go out and play together. But when the bell rang, we went to our own kindergarten. And our teacher was this really sweet old lady, and it was very nice. I liked it. Then I went to first grade. My parents took me out of the public school and stuck me into the Catholic school. And so it was a little bit closer to my house, but across a busy street. So my parents walked us to school over there. And it was, anyway, we, nowadays, a lot of the Catholic schools wear uniforms, but it was before that time, so we didn't have uniforms. So anyway, it was first grade, and the teacher yelled a lot, and my mother went and told her not to yell so much, and she was not willing to do that. So my mother took me out and put me back in the public school. And so I went to the second half of first grade in the public school. And then they wanted me to go back to the Catholic school for second grade for First Communion. And I tolerated that.
Was it a different teacher that didn't shout quite so much?
Yes, it was.
Was it a nun?
Yes, they were both nuns, but yeah, they of course stuck the first grade, the First Communion children in with a nun, and so we made our First Communion, and then third grade I went back. I stayed at the Catholic school, and then in fourth grade she put me back in the public school. And that was I think fourth grade is the best year of school. You're like 10 years old, and you, it's just great. I had a wonderful teacher, and in fourth grade, we study the missions in California. We have all the California missions. And so the fourth graders study it, and you have to make a model of a mission and bring it into school. And they still do that, actually. Oh. And so we studied, it was really great. We studied the Mexican culture, and they made skirts for us and the girls, and we could color them with a crayon. So It was really fun. We colored it with a crayon and then we ironed it, and the crayon went into the cloth. It was,
Oh, that's clever.
yeah, that was really fun. And then we had a Mexican dinner together. It was, or lunch, I guess, huh?
Because I guess San Diego's fairly close to Mexico, isn't it?
Yeah,
Border.
right next to Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, back then, was there a lot of trouble across the border? Was there a lot of illegal migrants coming across, or didn't you
yeah,
see a lot of that?
yeah, I don't know. I was a little kid, so I didn't hear about that. Um, Really kind of interesting is that they told us that the Mexican people sat around and they put the food in the middle, and then they took their tortilla and got food and ate it like everybody didn't have their own plate. But when I got married later on, my husband had some Mexican heritage, and they told me that was incorrect. Everybody has your own plate.
Fair enough.
But anyway, that was kind of interesting. At fourth grade, I moved across town to another school, and and they wore uniforms at that school. So it was St. Patrick's school, and it was fifth grade, and that's where I kind of started remembering my school. You know, back when I was a little tiny child, I don't really remember that well. And so I met my lifelong friend Judy Reed in the at St. Patrick's. And anyway, so fifth through eighth grade, I was at St. Patrick's, and the nuns taught the school. And every once in a while, we would have a teacher that was not a nun. And I remember in fifth grade, was it fifth grade? Maybe it was sixth grade. I can't remember. We had a lady, and her name was Mrs. Wolf, or Miss Wolf. And she got married halfway through the class. And she married this guy named Mr. Weir. So we called her Mrs. Weirwolf. That was pretty novel.
I reckon that probably stuck for an awful long time.
Yeah, probably.
Werewolf.
And I remember in eighth.
Was this an all-girls school then?
No, it was boys and girls. Yeah, the all-girls school was high school. I went to an all-girls school in high school. But I remember eighth grade, we had science, and I just loved science. I loved to learn about weather and the different kinds of clouds. I just loved it.
Was that more geography than science, I guess?
It was called science. I don't know. It was called science, and they studied about weather, and I loved it. And my dad was an artist, so I loved art too. And they had us listen to this. I think she had a record, and she put it on, and it was somebody talking about something artsy, like some castles with art on the walls and people dancing and stuff. And then we were supposed to make a picture that had something to do with what they were talking about.
Wow, so that could be quite a challenge, I guess.
Yeah, it was fun for me because I love to draw. And so that was kind of it. I thought that was really different that they did that.
So what was the school uniform like?
It was a green skirt with it was plaid, so it had some red and black and white lines going this way and that way in it. And it was just like it had a solid back, and then at the front, the two little pieces of cloth went across each other. So it was kind of like, anyway, we had a white shirt underneath, and this this. Oh yeah, and the older girls wore just a skirt. They didn't have that top thing on it. So I think I wore the top thing the first year, and then I was an older kid, and I got to wear my just with a skirt.
So that was to identify the young ones, was it?
Yeah, I think you could tell because they were short too, but maybe they didn't want to make the bigger girls wear that thing on top. But it kept your shirt clean anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So moving forward slightly, then, what was your junior high like?
Well, that was, the Catholic school went to 8th grade, so that was basically junior high. Here, junior high is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I think the junior high kids maybe didn't wear the top on their on their skirt. That was what junior high was like. But we would go out and, have lunch in the schoolyard. They have all these benches around the edge of the schoolyard, and we would sit on our benches and eat our lunch together.
I guess in Southern California, it never rains, does it?
Yeah, very seldom. We have like 9 to 14 inches of rain every year, so that's not very much.
We have that in a week.
Yeah, right. So we're called the desert by the sea, San Diego. We have a river down the middle of Mission Valley, and it's called the river that's under the ground. That's what because the river's there, but you have to dig down to find the water.
So there's that song in there. Well, it never rains in Southern California.
Hardly ever. I mean, we appreciate our rain. When it does rain, I'm always because we have a lot of tourists here in San Diego. I'm like apologizing to the tourists when it rains. but we love our rain because it's free water for the garden.
Yeah. So I guess you have to use a lot of water to keep your garden growing.
Yeah, like I don't know what your water bill is like, but ours is like $200 a month for. I mean, it's $200 every other month. I guess it is. Yeah, $100 a month for our water. It's pretty expensive. They're trying to get water from the ocean now. Back
put salination part in.
Back in 1949, they actually had a water purification plant here in San Diego that took the seawater and made fresh water for drinking out of it. But they found that it was cheaper to get it from the Colorado River, so they made a ditch and brought the water from the Colorado River to San Diego, and so they sold it to Cuba, and they're actually still using the same water plant over there in Cuba that we had here in San Diego in 1949.
All right.
But anyway, now they're building us a new one because it's more expensive to get the water from the Colorado River now.
So what about your high school? How did you get on there? Did you move school again?
Yes, the high school was Regina Caeli Academy, and it was it's I really remember a lot about that now. And I met some friends, so much fun. The freshman, sophomore, and junior year in high school was really great. And then they decided to close my school before my senior year. So I had my senior ring from Regina Caeli, but I had to go to Rosary High School for my senior year because they closed it down. There weren't enough girls in the school, and so they closed it down. But high school was, we had nuns and we had lay teachers. That's what they call them, lay teachers. And it was a small school. And one thing I remember about high school is Kennedy died when I was in high school. Yeah, John F. Kennedy died when I was in high
Is that
school.
in 63, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
No.
so they had us all go to the auditorium, and they told us, and they had a TV on the stage, and they were playing, the news. And I thought it was really interesting because we had a lot of girls from Mexico, and so many of the Mexican girls were crying because he died. And I just thought that was so wonderful that they cared so much about the president in the US. I thought it was really sweet that they cried. Um, and so, I mean, high school was great. We got, instead of staying in the same classroom, we got to go from classroom to classroom. And we didn't have one teacher all day long, which was really great, because if you sometimes those
Yeah.
teachers, you have to just kind of tune out to just exist in their room. But so we had the kind ones and the oh my gosh ones,
The strict ones.
yeah, gosh.
So what was
And
your favorite lesson then?
well, the English teacher was really wonderful. She was very personable and talked to us and cared about us. And so I guess that must have been my favorite one. I like Spanish class too. She was a very old lady, the nun that taught Spanish class, and it was just charming. She would try and tell us, okay, so we're saying the lesson, but when you go to Mexico, you say it like this, and so she was, trying
Giving
to
you the
help us out.
colloquial.
Yeah, she was trying to help us out, and she was lovely. Um, I remember we read The Pearl in English class, and there was a lot of classics that we read in English class. And religion class was really funny. I am talking, probably saying a lot, but we used to, I had a friend in religion class, and we would sit there, and a priest would come and talk to us once a week. And so my girlfriend sat there and made a mark every time he said, and she had the page filled up by the end of the day. Poor guy. I felt sorry for him.
Well, some people are afflicted with that way, aren't they? So it's very difficult sometimes when you're up talking about something that you don't know an awful lot about. So you tend to say,
Yeah, well, I think maybe he knew a lot about religion, but
just didn't know how to talk to girls.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I think that might have been a problem for him. These teenage girls, my gosh. And I mean, really.
Yeah, perhaps he was in the wrong job.
Yeah, I guess so. He needed to. Yeah, I think he was the priest who actually decided to close our school. Maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, might had a lot to do with it, I guess.
Maybe those.
I mean, he could have spammed somebody else for doing the job.
Right.
He could have got somebody else more qualified to go and talk to girls.
Yeah, well, that's why the nuns were there, right? You can.
Yeah.
They didn't have to pay the nuns. They could just feed them and house them.
So moving on then, did you go off to college after school?
Yeah, my mother told me that I owed her 2 years of college. So I went to college, and I got a 2-year degree, an AA degree, Associate of Arts degree in art. And that was really amazing. There were things I wanted to do, so I actually got a job while I was in college. I worked at the Wiener Schnitzel down the hill from the college. So it's like I would get up in the morning and I would walk 3 miles to school. I couldn't believe it. I walked 3 miles to school to save 25 cents, but I guess 25 cents was quite a bit back then. I wanted that money for something else. And then I would have a PE class at, like 7 o'clock in the morning. So I got up and walked to school at 5 o'clock in the morning or 5:30. And then I went to class and I had a PE class, and my friend Judy was there too. We went to City College together, San Diego City College. And then I would have my other classes, and then I would go down and work the lunch break at the Wiener Schnitzel. And then I would go back to school and have my afternoon classes. And then I would go back down to the Wiener Schnitzel and work the dinner shift. And then I came back up to school and I took the evening classes too. And then my dad would pick me up at 10 o'clock on his motorcycle and take me home.
Crikey.
So that was,
day.
yeah. So I was an art student, and they didn't think that art was really school back then. They thought art was kind of like fun. And so they gave us, our classes were 1 unit. And usually in college, the classes are 3 units. And so I had to take 3 times as many classes as other people, as my friends, because I had art classes.
That's a bit unfair, isn't it?
Yeah, it is now. I mean, nowadays, when I went back to school, when I was like 38 or something like that, I went back to school and to get my degree, and all those classes were 3 unit classes then. So I had all my classes. I could take whatever I wanted because I had most of my classes that I needed already. But anyway, it was, it was the time of the Vietnam War, and my boyfriend was in Vietnam. And yeah, so.
Did he come back?
Yeah, he did. He was a corpsman with the Marines, and I met him here in San Diego because we have the Navy Hospital here in San Diego, and that's how I met him. And then he went off to Vietnam, and I was praying for him, and he would tell me like his friend died, and it was so traumatic for him because he had to put his friend in a body bag,
Yeah.
And so I was praying for his friend, was named Peanuts. He called his friend Peanuts. So I was praying for his friend Peanuts also, besides praying for him. But I did not know anyone who died in the Vietnam War. None of the people that I knew, maybe I didn't know a lot of people, but there was a young man from my church who died in the war, and I went to his funeral, even though I didn't know him, because I felt so bad that they were over there doing that. That was very traumatic for all of us.
Yeah, we've had a lot of wars since then, and they're all traumatic, whichever way you look at them. And,
right.
Yeah, it's just different way of doing things nowadays, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully they're going to get smart about it soon and realize that we need to be nice to each other. And
yeah, I can't see that happening, really. Not with the likes of Putin about.
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, back to college.
Yeah.
So I had all these art classes, which was really fun. And my gosh, I still have paintings in my house from that time that I painted in college.
Wow.
And I met the man that I was going to marry when I was at City College too. I had a boyfriend. Well, my boyfriend that was in Vietnam, he came back and he was from Hawaii. And my boss did not want me to marry him. So she told Ron to ask me out. So Ron married me instead.
So, what was your first job when you graduated from college?
Well, my first job when I graduated from okay, so I went the first job was, well, I was an artist, right? And so I worked at this place called Canyon Graphics, and we made silkscreen art there. So Canyon Graphics used to make like, like they have machines, and then on the machine is a little plate, and you
Yeah.
can push the buttons below the plate. It's kind of like a plasticky plate, and you can push the buttons below it. And I made the art for those plates. And I created the art, and then I put it on this step machine, and it stepped it into like maybe 6 or 9 up. And then I would give it to the silkscreen people, and they would make the silk screens for it. And then they would, make the panels. And that's what I did my first
Oh.
job.
How long did that last then? I guess that didn't really challenge you, did it?
Well,
Or did you have a brief on what sort of design they were looking for, and do you have to put several designs forward before they?
yeah, it was a photo. It was a photo. I had a photo lab. I created the art, and then I took a picture of it, and then I put it on the step machine and made a negative. And then it was quite, it was so funny because I was the artist, and the work wasn't very artsy, but so when I became a young woman and I wanted to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up, my mother asked me, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "I want to be a fashion designer." And my mother said, "Well, not too many people get to be a fashion designer. Maybe you better think of something else." And my dad was an artist, a graphic artist. And so I thought, well, if I want to make money and I want to be an artist, maybe I should be a graphic artist. And that's what I took in school. I took commercial art. And so that's why I was doing stuff like that wasn't really very creative, because I wanted to be a graphic artist. And those were graphics, and that was the job. But it was so funny because I didn't really know that much about computers. And my boss came in and said, "Okay, we need to make some labels, and we have this machine, and here's the book." And I told him, "I don't know how to do that." And he said, "Well, you're the artist, so read the book and and make the labels." And I was sitting there crying because I didn't know how to do it. And so I read the book and I did it. And I was so proud of myself. Oh my gosh, I made those labels with that machine. It was a machine with a little knife, and it would just cut all the labels individually. It was amazing.
Wow.
So it was challenging. It was challenging because I was just like, oh man.
Putting upon you.
Yeah. Because I was the expert, right? Even though I didn't know how to do it, I was the expert. So it was my job. And after that, I went and worked at a newspaper, and I did paste up at a newspaper. I think they had artists doing paste up because we actually could see what was straight up and what was crooked. You know what I mean? Yeah. And although we used T-squares and triangles and stuff like that to get everything straight, that if you want to be an artist and you want to have a job and you want to make some money, you're going to have to do graphic artists, because if you want to be a sculptor, you just got to get lucky that somebody likes your work. But if you want to go to a job, you got to do graphics.
Well, funny you say about paste up. I mean, when I was in Afghanistan in 2002, we were putting together a 3-language newspaper, and I had to do all the paste up on it.
So you know what I'm talking about.
So we had to type up these bits, print them
Mhm.
off, cut them out, paste them into the layout, and
With
then
wax, right? You used wax? Did you use
no,
wax?
this was paper on paper, sticking it down, and then we had to scan it to get
Right.
a trace, and the trace went to the printers, and
Mhm.
they made the plates from the trace. Yeah, it was a long drawn out process, that's for sure.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. People don't realize what we did back then.
Yeah.
But we used wax. We had a wax machine, and we would take the type and stick it through the wax machine and then put it down on the boards.
It's all good fun back then.
Yes.
But,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have all that stuff from my college and when I worked at the paper, and I keep looking at it thinking I should throw this away, but it's really history. It's history.
It is, and if you can find a printing museum that take it, that would
Oh,
bite
that's a
your
good
hand
idea.
off. They
That's
would
an
bite your
idea.
hand off.
Yeah, because everything we had to make a negative,
Mm.
and remember in college we were using 3M color key, and you had to carve it out. It was yeah, amazing.
Nothing easy there then.
Yeah,
So that's what you was doing at a newspaper. So was this one of
yeah.
the big multinationals, or was it a local newspaper?
It was local. Yeah, it
Mm.
was local, and we were just making the editors look good with our, we'd take what they wanted and paste it up for them.
Mm. I guess working to a deadline all the time,
Yeah, I
and
worked. Yeah, I
if the
worked.
copy came in late, and you had to, you were under even more pressure, I guess.
Yeah, I worked in the graveyard shift. We had to have the newspaper done, I think by 2 in the morning or something, so they could print it for.
Yeah,
Um, yep, that's what I
yeah.
did. But when my college was kind of interrupted because I got married after my third year of college,
Mm.
and I had, you know, I had 5 kids, and then when my daughter went to college, I went back to college and got my fourth year of college,
All right.
and yeah. So when I talk
But you
about
didn't have to
after,
work quite as hard, did you?
oh yeah,
Getting
man,
3
I mean,
credits instead of 1 for every class.
diapers for 5 kids, for gosh sakes. And, yeah, so I had a little bit of an interruption there, but I
Mm.
remember when I was in college, I was sitting there, when I was 38 and my daughter was 18, she went off to college, and we were at the same school, only I was in the art department and she was in the engineering department. And I was sitting at school one day, and I was doing some homework, and I saw these shoes walk by me, and I thought, "Well, I have shoes like that." And I looked up, and there's my daughter. She was wearing my shoes that day.
That's the trouble with girls, isn't it?
So
Ruining their
she
mother's
wasn't in
gear.
trouble. It was fine for her to wear my shoes. We had the same size feet.
Yeah, how often did you borrow her shoes?
Yeah, never. Anyway, it was pretty fun. It was nice being there with her. The art department and the engineering department are right next to each other, so it was pretty cool.
So you used to go out and have lunch together.
No, actually, it was pretty odd that I saw her at school. She had a little car by then.
Ah.
She had a little Carmen Ghia, little green Carmen Ghia,
All right.
that
Ah,
she
little
drove to.
Volkswagen, eh?
Yeah, it was great. Um, and she used to drive to school every morning. She was on her own. It was so funny because after she was done with college, um, she wouldn't apply to General Atomic to be in it. She was an aerospace engineer, and she wouldn't apply at General Atomic because she didn't get all A's, because she had to work while she was at school. She was like blaming it on me that she didn't have all A's because she had to go to. Anyway, I'm
Well,
sure
she should have
Jenna.
worked a bit harder at it then.
So she got a job at a different kind of engineering firm.
So, when you left college, then you kind of got married, so you dropped out a year early.
Yeah, a year early. Yeah.
And started churning kids out.
Yes, yes. And I remember when I was 25 years old, I had my third child when I was 25 years old. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm a quarter of a century old. I just thought that was really old. And obviously, since I had all those children to care for, I was pretty old. And
Were you able to be a stay-at-home mum, or did
yes.
you have to work as well?
No, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was lucky. And my husband had a really good job, and he was really good at what he did. And every time they had a layoff, they saved him. They could save 10% of their workforce when they had a layoff, and they always saved him. So we were very fortunate to have, a good job when we were raising our kids.
So you stayed in the San Diego area all of that time. Did you travel much during that time?
Not really. When I was 18, I went to Hawaii to visit my boyfriend from Hawaii. That was one travel thing I did. And then when my husband was working, he put phone systems in, and he was putting a phone system on the Blue Ridge in Japan. So I got to go to Japan with him. So that was pretty cool.
And did you drag the saucepan lids along with you?
No. What did you say?
Drag the saucepan lids, kids.
Oh, the saucepan. No, my sister stayed at my house and took care of them while I was gone. So, yeah,
that was a proper result there. That was like having an extra honeymoon, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, really, when we got married, we didn't have much of a honeymoon. We got married. We wanted to get married before Christmas, so we'd have a nice long honeymoon. But my mother said if I got married before Christmas, she wouldn't come. So we got married the day after Christmas, and then we just had a weekend for our honeymoon. So we, yeah.
So that was a belated honeymoon then.
I guess so, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting going to Japan. It was a lot different than the US.
Probably still is.
Yeah, everything was small over there because they're on a little island. I mean, we're here, in California, it's pretty big. We're kind of spread out a bit. But everything is quite compact over there. That's what I noticed about it. And it was so clean. It was very clean.
Yeah. So let's come forward a little bit then. So you was at college at 38 and you graduated. Did you graduate the same year as your daughter, or did you sort of do it?
No, I graduated when she was a freshman, actually, still.
All right.
I just had 1 year to go, and I didn't have very many classes to take because I had already taken all the classes when they were one unit. So it was pretty cool. I could take whatever I wanted, and and still graduate. But I wasn't a math person. I didn't do math very well, and they make you take tests before you graduate. So the week like a month before we had to take this math test, I took remedial math, and so when I took the test, I knew how to do all those things, but I forgot it immediately afterwards. And
as you do, because it's a complete and utter waste of time generally.
Well, I don't know, because I do love to sew. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and so I'll actually make my clothes and my children's clothes, during my life. And you need math for sewing. number one. And you need math for cooking also. And I cooked quite a bit too. So those
So you
were
had a
two.
practical use for it.
Yeah. And art, you know, you have to measure stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah. So.
So what did you do once you got your degree then?
Yeah, it was very interesting because I got my degree in 1989, and that was the beginning of computer graphics. So all the stuff I learned in school were not usable anymore. Everybody had to go back to school and learn how to use a computer so they could do art. And so I didn't really, you know, I think I was still working at the newspaper when I graduated. And I didn't, I couldn't get a job because it was all computers. I mean, just think about it. The first graphic program was Illustrator 88, and I graduated in 89. And I was really lucky to have done an internship with a lady who was using Illustrator 88. So I actually kind of knew how to do that stuff a little bit, not enough to have a job. And so I had to go back to school, and I went to Platt College of Computer Graphic Design, and I got my diploma from there also. And then I could work, but it was silly. You know, I was an artist, and I mean, I wanted to be a fashion designer, really, you know, and there I was trying to make, you know, you go in and you work at a place and you make ads, you know, you put ads together, you know, and it was, I mean, I could do it, and it was fun to make the computer do what I told it to and stuff. But
So let's just explore that for a second. So you're working for an ad agency, I guess.
right. Mm-hmm.
So how involved were you with the planning cycle?
Nothing, zero.
So
You know,
so how did you get the brief to come up with what design they wanted for a particular product?
it was already designed when I got it, and I was just working the computer and putting their ads together for them.
All right.
It wasn't a creative job at all. They said it was, but it really wasn't. They just needed somebody who knew how to work the machine, you know, the computer, to put the ads together.
So
one
they
day,
already had a designer there designing the ad then.
Yeah, the salesman designed the ad. But one day I got to draw with Illustrator. I got to draw a car, and it looked so good when I was done. I mean, I just took a car and made a template and put it on Illustrator, and then I just drew around it, and it looked exactly like a little cartoon car when I was done. It was so fun. And they were like, wow, how'd you do that? And I was like, well, you know, I know how to do that, you know.
It's a secret.
You're right.
Very, very complicated procedure.
Yeah, right. It was really, I could have really done that all day long. It was so fun. And I'm sure if I did that all day long, they would have paid me more, right?
Yeah.
But I tried to get a good job, but it was difficult back then. I mean, everything, you know, you print it out, right? Nowadays, you can just make things on the computer and print them out, and they look great. But back then, it was difficult it was very expensive to get media to make a portfolio. And so when I went out to get a job, I had all my stuff that I had done not on the computer, and I had, you know, it was very difficult to get a job because I needed to spend megabucks to get my portfolio put together. And I had 5 kids. I wasn't gonna spend. Anyway, it was difficult. So after that, I decided, through my whole life, I always had pneumonia and bronchitis every year. And when I finally, my doctor took pity on me and sent me to this class, and you learn to breathe properly. And then after I learned to breathe properly, I didn't get sick anymore. And so that was a really great thing for me. And I was a graphic designer, and I actually did freelance after that, where I was making things for people. And while I was a freelance graphic designer, I was in a networking group, and I heard this lady talk about breathing. And I remember my doctor, got me breathing correctly. And so I heard her say breathing, and I'm like, ooh, I want to, I went over there and I was trying to hear what she was telling this other person. And so I found out about transformational breathing from that lady. And actually, that's where my career turned. So I went to this class about the breathing, and then I decided I wanted to learn how to be a facilitator of that breathing. So I went home and I told my husband. My husband was a person that never wanted to do what I wanted to do. I don't know if you ever met people like that, but if I wanted to do something, he did not want to do it. And so I sort of tricked him. I told him, I want to do this breathing class, and I know I'm going to grow from it, and I don't want to grow past you. So would you take this breathing class with me? And he said, yes. It was so great because we were really careful about our relationship. We were trying to always make our relationship so we didn't have to get divorced. We didn't want to do that. And so we were all kind of careful about our relationship.
A little bit of compromise here and there to go amiss.
Yeah, right. We just wanted to keep this thing going because we had 5 kids, for gosh sakes.
Yeah.
And so our baby boy son was 16 years old, and the lady told us that if we bring our children, they're free. So we had to pay for me and Ron, but John was free. So I talked him into going. He said, why do you want me to do that? And I said, well, we should do, yeah, really.
It's free.
Yeah, that was the reason. But I said, oh, well, we need to do things as a family. And he said, okay. So he came, and we all became transformational breathing facilitators. And so that after that, I decided that would be my career instead. And so that's what I've been doing. And also at the same time, I went and did another education. That was in 1999. I took a course in expressive arts therapy. So they have art therapy, but they have expressive arts therapy. And so what the expressive arts are is it's like drawing, and then it's poetry, and it's theater, and it's music, all the arts, and you use them all together to help people get out of their stuck places. That's what the therapy is about. So I took a course in that, and it was in San Diego, and I went during the year in San Diego, and then I had to go to Switzerland in the summer to everybody. They had all these schools all over the world. It was the ISIS Institute, the International School of Intermodal Studies, ISIS. And so that was really, so cool. I had to go off to Switzerland every summer to go to school. And that was really delightful. And we had people from all over the world. I mean, I was going to school with Jews and Palestinians, and, I was going to Germany, and there was a guy from Ireland. There were people from Denmark and Sweden. Anyway, we all went to Sasby, Switzerland in the summer and went to school together. That was really, really cool.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a master's program. And so anyway, I didn't actually finish it because my husband got sick and I ran out of money.
Mm.
But I went for 2 years. It was a 3-year program. So anyway.
So let's go forward a bit, because I mean, you spent quite a lot of time looking after your husband when he became ill. Then,
Yeah, poor guy. He was an athlete, and here he got Parkinson's disease. I mean, his friends were like, "Oh no, not Ron," because he was a runner. He biked, and he did. He was a triathlete actually, and so yeah, he got Parkinson's disease. He had it for quite a while, and they didn't know what it was. And finally, in 2001, they diagnosed him with Parkinson's disease. And in 2000, I think it was 2002, can't remember, that he had to leave his job because one of the problems with Parkinson's disease is you can't write. When you write, it just gets really small at the end. And he was supposed to document what he did in his job, and he couldn't write, so he couldn't document what he did. So they had a buyout, and he took it. And he thought he would get another job afterwards, but the medicine they gave him make him tired, and so he couldn't get another job. And so there we were without a job. And with a really tiny pension, because he was like 52. He had to, quit his job when he was 52. You don't get much of a pension, even though it was 30 years he worked there. It wasn't very much. And so that was an awful time. But he could still move around. He could still walk. But when he took the meds, he could walk. When he didn't take the meds, he couldn't walk. And so he was okay for quite a few years. And then in 2010, he stopped taking the meds. This doctor came to my house, and I sell negative ion clothes. And so the doctor came to my house to see the clothes. And then when he saw Ron, he was like, "Oh, now I know why I came here. I'm going to heal Ron." And so he wanted to take Ron off of all his meds. And all of a sudden, Ron couldn't move anymore if he didn't take his meds. So that's when he became totally disabled. So the doctor worked with him for 6 months. I mean, we were doing coffee enemas 3 times a day, and I was juicing all these carrots and apples and celery, and to give him to clean all the meds out of him. And anyway, after 6 months, the doctor gave up. And so there I was with Ron, and he couldn't move. And my kids said, and the thing is that Ron was in a lot of pain from the medications. The medications made him have stenosis of the spine, and he was in pain all the time because of the medication. And he was fine being paralyzed. He just didn't want to be in pain. He was fine sitting there in his chair watching cowboy movies all day long. He loved that. And so he didn't want to start taking the meds again. And my children said, "Well, you can't just leave him paralyzed." And they had this surgery called deep brain stimulator. And so we decided to do that. And they said that they didn't know. I mean, here he is paralyzed, right? I'm taking him around in his wheelchair everywhere. And I took him to the doctor, and they, about the deep brain stimulator. And the doctor said, "Well, I don't know if it would work. He's paralyzed." And they said, "Well, if we give him the medication and it makes him be able to move, then the deep brain stimulator will work." So they gave him the medication. I mean, for months, he hadn't been able to stand up, right? They gave him the medication. Like a half hour later, he stands up out of his wheelchair and walks around. So it was like, Oh my gosh. Okay. So then they did the deep brain stimulator. But then it failed and he couldn't walk and he couldn't talk. I mean, he had been able to talk before that,
Yeah.
but the deep brain stimulator made him not be able to talk either. So it was a failed deep brain stimulator. So then I got to be a caregiver until he died, you know, I mean, he couldn't move, he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk. And he used to write things on his hand, on my hand. Like if he wanted ice cream, he would ICECREAM on my hand. And so we could communicate. And also we had the cell phones and he could type, type. So he would, and he had a tablet, one of those electronic tablets, an iPad or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was 2011, and then he died in 2018. So I got to stay home and be his caregiver. I had to quit my job. And anyway, so I while I was on, staying home, I went online and I did a lot of healing, personal healing with a lot of enlightened thought leaders. And I mean, that was 7 years I was on, line doing healing with those people. And so I felt like I had learned some stuff, and I put together some philosophies of my own, synthesizing what they said. And I felt like I had some things that I could teach people. And anyway, so after Ron died, I mean, I thought we were going to be riding our bicycles across France in our old age, and obviously not, right? And so I had to get another dream, and the dream I got was to walk the Camino Santiago de Compastela. And that was like, my girlfriend did it. My girlfriend Judy, that I knew in grade school and high school and college, went on the Camino, and she put on Facebook all about, her travels. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to do the Camino.
You thought to yourself, oh, I could do that. That's a big break. That's just a walk in the park, isn't it? It's just putting one foot in front of the other and away you go.
Yeah, really low skill, low tech. Yeah, I can do that. One foot in front of the other. And,
so how did that work then? How did that actually? How did you start? How did you go with the planning? Did you have? Did you carry everything with you, or did you have a pack mule that carried the stuff?
Yeah,
did you have a Sherpa?
I got a pack. I got a really great pack. I tried 4 packs before I got the right one. Got this really great pack. And the science of going on the Camino is to pack lightly, and you just take what you need, and you don't need to carry food because there's food there. It's not like you're going to a third world country or anything. Spain is a modern country, and they have food there, and they have places to stay. They're called albergues, and you go and you walk from albergue to albergue each day. So all I needed was my sleeping bag and my clothes and, my toiletries. And I took a few extra things because I have food allergies. So I brought a pot just in case I had to cook my own food if I couldn't find food that I could eat. And I brought a titanium pot that didn't weigh very much. And so, yeah, you carry it all on your back. But if you can't carry it, you can actually, they'll drive it to the next place for you too. They've got people who do that. But I wanted to carry my pack.
How many days did you jump on the transport then?
One day there was one day walking into Burgos is a 9-mile hike on the freeway. And I was just like, No,
Yeah.
I don't want to walk 9 miles on the freeway. So I walked to Villa Fria, and then from Villa Fria, I took the bus to Burgos, and that was the only time I took the bus.
Did you get many blisters?
I did not get any blisters.
Wow.
And I think if you try and go fast, you're going to get blisters. And I walk slow, and they talk about how to do that. And it seemed to me like the people that got the blisters were the ones that needed to get out of there. They needed to walk fast and get out of there. And I did not. I gave myself 3 months, and it only took me 2.
So you rushed it then?
Yeah, and I have a problem with my foot too. I have pes cavus, which is like you've got high arches and you're getting old and they're falling. So,
Yeah. Did you
so
have special footbeds in your shoes?
Yeah, I had this orthotic in my shoe, and also I did Tai Chi walking, which is you roll your foot and you bring it off at the end. You bring it off the ground at the end, and you put it down and you roll your foot and like that. And that was really helpful because if you're going to be slamming your feet, bam, 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 all the time, you're going to have hurt feet. So I did.
You're going to have dramas, that's for sure.
Yeah, I did Tai Chi walking, which really took a lot longer also, but at least I could do it, right?
Did you do it in the sort of the slow motion? Did you do the hand movements as you went by?
No, I had my hands on my poles. I was going like this.
So you got your pack on your back, you've got your poles, and the poles actually help a lot.
Yeah, they do.
We're taking some of the pressure off your hips and your knees and your ankles and your feet.
Yeah, I really didn't know the technology. I just knew that I needed to do that. So I just got poles, and I I did a lot of planning. I read a lot of books, and there was at the library by my house, they had a lecture about packing light for the Camino. So I went to that, and they told me things I needed to know about that. So it was, I just knew how to do it. I sent off, it was like in January, like Ron died in August. And by January, I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I better get it together here. And so I started ordering online, and it was a really great time because it was right after Christmas and there were so many sales. So I would I ordered all
bargains.
You
get your bargains.
Bargains, yes, bargains, yeah. Oh my goodness. So I got, there's this store in San Diego. I think they're everywhere. It's called REI, and I bought all my stuff online from REI, and then I bought some stuff from Amazon online. But if I got it and it wasn't light enough, or if it didn't fit, then I just sent it back. And so by April, I had accumulated all the things that I needed. And so I had all the stuff I needed to go on the Camino, and I got my airfare, and actually, like I say, absolutely wanted to finish no matter what. And so that's why I just I gave myself 3 months. And actually I spent the last month over in the UK. I was in Edinburgh last month.
I apologize for you. I can feel for you. Edinburgh, really? Why did you, whatever possessed you to go to Edinburgh?
Oh, well, okay. So years ago, I saw this painting at my friend's house, and it was a modern painting, and it had the halo behind the heads of the people like it was an icon. And it made me think, wow, I would really like to learn how to paint icons. So I went online, and there is actually a school, an icon painting school in Edinburgh. And but I didn't go to, I found one in San Diego also. And so I went to that one. And then when I was going to have like a month extra over in Europe, I thought, well, I'll go to Edinburgh and take the icon painting classes from that lady over there. So, There was one in France too, but I don't speak French, so I thought Edinburgh would be better.
Yeah. They might as well have been speaking Swahili up there, I guess.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, it was very interesting because in San Diego doing the icon painting, we used acrylic paint. And over in Edinburgh, they do it the old way. They use
Oils.
no, they use egg gesso. So they take an egg and get rid of the white, right? And they've got the yellow of the egg in your hand, and you poke it and you squeeze the egg yolk out of that into a bowl, and you mix beer with it, and then you mix the powdered paints with it, and that's what they do. That's what they use for the paint. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Does it not smell at all? It'll go off.
So that's what I mean. I have my icons in my front room. I have this little niche where I have my icons, and boy, that one that I made in Edinburgh looks really primitive compared to my ones that I made with acrylic paint.
So, not satisfied then with having a mince down the Camino. What did you do next?
What did I do after the Camino?
Yeah, you had another go, didn't you? From Portugal.
Yeah. Oh, right. I went to Portugal. Oh, well, that was 2 years later. So the Camino, like it was in 2019 before COVID that I did the first Camino. The second Camino, I went from Lisbon up to Santiago, and it was during COVID time. And that was very exciting, trying to find a place to stay because so many places were closed. And Portugal's a lot different than Spain. And so it was a tough go. It was a tough go hiking in Portugal, although it was wonderful. Oh my gosh, what a civilization, the Portuguese. What a wonderful civilization. I just loved it. I had no idea, how advanced they were. And, their history is wonderful. They were so on the spot dealing with the COVID. They just, they took care of things, and that was really amazing. But like on the Camino in Spain in 2019, I was able to go forward all the time. But in Portugal, there was such a long space between the places where I could stay. Sometimes I had to take the bus back to the previous night's stay there, and then take the bus back in the morning to that other place and then walk, So it wasn't as fun, I guess I should say. It was more when I walked in Spain before COVID, it was just like fairy tale.
So easier. Yeah.
So it was so beautiful and so wonderful. But I would say that when I walked during COVID in Portugal, it was difficult, but it was wonderful also. I mean, the first part of the Camino goes on the same trail as the people that are walking to Fatima. It's the same trail. And I met so many people that were walking to Fatima. That was lovely to meet them. And they were all thinking it was wonderful to meet us too. So it was just like really great, really great. And I walked so slow that every once in a while somebody would walk slow with me, but everybody passed me up. No, I didn't. I passed one person up. There was one lady that I actually passed up. But besides that, everybody passed me up.
And did you feel really good once you'd overtaken her?
She was really walking slow. She was really walking slow. It was so cute. She was a mountainous woman, and she was just walking really slow. I mean, her boots weren't even all tied up. She was just like walk, walk, walk. And I had to go to the bathroom a lot. So I was always going to a bar and getting a coffee so that I could use their restroom. And so I actually started walking with her for a little while, and I asked her, "You want to go to the bar with me?" And she said, "No, I got to keep walking or I'll never get there." And so I left her, went to the bar, went to the restroom, and then I went and I walked and I passed her again. And I was doing that all day long. I was, she just, I guess she didn't have to go to the restroom. I don't know, but she just kept walking.
So from all this adventure then, I understand you've written a little bit of a book.
Yes, I have this book. It's Wisdom on the Camino, and a spiritual journey sharing forgiveness and possibilities to inspire the rest of your life by Kathleen Donnelly, Israel. And the cool thing about the book is, well, actually, when I got home from the Camino, I decided to write my book. And I was going to just write it about all the things that I learned while Ron was ill, and I had to be on the internet in the evening. And then I felt weird being all teachy. So I thought, well, I told all those things to people on the Camino. So I wrote my book about walking the Camino and telling people those things. So that's how I wrote the book. And really when you make a book, you make an outline and you just make lists of things you're going to say in different chapters. That was my outline, was all my teachings that I wanted to tell people. And then I just used that outline and wrote the story around it. Remembered all the things that I did. And on the Camino, I didn't really do a journal, but what I did was each night I went online and I told my friends what I had done each day on Facebook. So that was my journal. And my daughter made me a WhatsApp, and it was called, it was called, well, I have 5 kids, so I mean, it was a group, right?
Yeah.
And she called it Mom's Walkabout Check-In. So they wanted me to check in. So I actually told them all the gory details. I told my friends all the good stuff, and I told my kids all the gory details of what
you just wanted to keep them worried, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, really, they were not worried at all. They had complete faith in me, and they were just glad I was doing something wonderful after all those years of staying home with Ron.
Yeah.
And so between all that, that's how I remembered the stories.
So where could people get the book?
It's on Amazon. I published on Amazon. I went through a self-publishing school, and then I published on Amazon. So isn't that a great cover? It's got me walking forward, and then it's me standing there too.
Brilliant.
Amazon, Wisdom on the Camino by Kathleen Donnelly, Israel, on Amazon.
Fantastic. Well, Kathleen, I've really, really enjoyed this chat. What a story you've got.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure.
The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.